lesson is Matthew 25:14 through 30. Parable of the valuable coins. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who is leaving on a trip. He called his servants and handed his possessions over to them. To one he gave 5 valuable coins, and to another he gave 2, and to another he gave 1. He gave to each servant according to the servant's ability. Then he left on his journey. After the man left, the servant who had 5 valuable coins took them and went to work doing business with them. He gained 5 more in the same way. The one who had 2 valuable coins gained 2 more. But the servant who had received the 1 valuable coin dug a hole in the ground and buried his master's money. Now, after a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The one who received 5 valuable coins came forward with the 5 additional coins. He said, "Master, you gave me 5 valuable coins. Look, I've gained 5 more." His master replied, "Excellent. You are a good, faithful servant. You've been faithful over a little. I'll put you in charge of much. Come celebrate with me." The second servant also came forward and said, "Master, you gave me 2 valuable coins. Look, I've gained 2 more." His master replied, "Well done. You are a good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a little. I'll put you in charge of much. Come celebrate with me." Now the one who had received 1 valuable coin came and said, "Master, I knew that you are a hard man. You harvest grain where you haven't sown. You gather crops where you haven't spread seed. So I was afraid, and I hid my valuable coin in the ground where you have what's yours." His master replied, "You evil and lazy servant. You knew that I harvest grain where I haven't sown, and that I gather crops where I haven't spread seed. In that case, you should have turned my money over to the bankers so that when I returned, you could give me what belonged to me with interest. Therefore, take from him the valuable coin and give it to the one who has 10 coins. Those who have much will receive more, and they will have more than they need. But as for those who don't have much, and even the little bit they have will be taken away from them. Now take the worthless servant and throw him outside onto the darkness. People will be there weeping and grinding their teeth."
That's a picture of the outer darkness, by the way. When I was looking up outer darkness on Google, looking for some picture to describe it, of course I couldn't find anything better than a blank slide. I did come across this. It's a spice called outer darkness. It will bring weeping and gnashing of teeth. On the label it warns, do not get it in your eyes or even on your fingers. Wear a mask when you're pouring it. It is nasty, nasty stuff. Outer darkness. Now, when I think of outer darkness, I remember a science fiction story that scared me. I mean, I really had bad dreams about it. You know, in space stations in science fiction, they rotated. They went round and round. That provided artificial gravity inside. Well, this poor guy was in his spacesuit, and he was outside, and he's hanging on, and every direction is out and down and out. And if he lets go into the outer darkness, can you imagine that? I woke up nights with that dream. The outer darkness. Now, you know the story. You've seen it in the video, and you heard it from the scripture. You heard Jesus' words. And in our capitalistic, individualistic society, we always think it's about the money. You get a certain amount, maybe more, maybe less, and you need to do the best you can with it, double your investment, and you're a good person if you don't. If you just hide your money or your talents or whatever, you will be thrown out into the outer darkness. What little you have will be taken away from you. There's a problem here. We like to think that we're the ones who are clever and smart and lucky. But it may not be that at all. There was a study done. They brought people in, volunteers in, and had them play Monopoly. And one of the volunteers at each Monopoly game was given twice as much money guess who won? And after the game, the important part was after the game, they asked them, how come you won? And it's because I'm better than they are. I was more clever. I had a little more luck, but mostly it was I was just a better guy or gal. Sometimes the idea of getting the 5 coins or getting the 2 coins and going out and doing your best with it, it kind of comes into a personal pride thing. And we forget that the one guy only had 1 coin. And he was afraid. Moaning, gnashing of teeth. At our clergy cluster last Thursday, we discussed a book called The Faith of Leap. We all know about a leap of faith, but this is the faith that makes leaps possible. And I heard a new term and a new idea, and I'm still wrestling with it, but I'll give you the basics. It's called liminal time. Liminal time is that betwixt and between time, when you're not what you were, but you're not yet what you're going to be. In fact, you don't even know what's going to happen exactly. You're in that middle. It's like you're engaged and you're no longer single, but you're not quite married yet. Or you're a high school graduate. You just returned your robe and got your diploma, but you're no longer in high school, but you're not in college or working yet. And you're not sure. Or a Methodist preacher on that week between one church, not there anymore, and the new church, not there yet. Or the church between preachers. It's a time of joy and fear for everybody. Liminal time. And in some way, this story is about that, because it is that time between the master leaving and the master coming home. And what do you do with that? Paul points out that the end is coming. And for him, it's next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. It was that kind of assurance that in the moment now, Christ would return in clouds of glory, and you need to be awake. Christ comes like a thief in the night. If a thief sent me a text message, I'm going to rob your house tonight, I certainly would lock the doors and bar the windows, right? But thieves don't do that, and neither does Christ. Christ will come at the right time. And the question is, what do we do with the time in between, this liminal time where we're not in the dead past and we're not there yet? What is the final question? What is the one question on the final exam? The final exam, the one you will be asked ultimately. Will it be about which Bible you read, which translation, which denomination you belong to, or which religion? Will it be about which hymn book we have, or what our doctrines and dogmas might be? That you're Methodist? Well, maybe. No, it won't be that. What is it Jesus asks, the King asks, at the very end of Matthew's Gospel, when he divides the sheep from the goats? Did you feed the hungry? Did you house the homeless, clothe the naked, care for the sick, visit the prisoners, and love one another, even the least of these? Even the guy that got thrown out into the outer darkness with moaning and gnashing of teeth. That's the question. What did you do in this liminal time between was and going to be? That's the question. That's the important question. I think the guy who was thrown out was the one. He was afraid. He was afraid of God. He was afraid of the future. He was afraid of all the things that go wrong. And so he acted like he was afraid. He held it all together. He hung on to the past. He hung on to what little he had. And we do that. And we're urged to do that by our news and by our media and by the stories we read. People want to hang on to what they have. But it's gone. We don't know what's going to happen, except we do know which way to lean. The question is, you have certain talents and abilities and personality quirks that really work well. What are you going to do with them? Are you going to hold them back in fear of the future, or are you going to risk them in Jesus Christ? Remember, He gave everything for us. He gave His life, He gave His love, and He gives every moment to be with us. Are we going to respond by having a big bad God in the sky that we're afraid to do anything, or are we going to go out and do what is right? Martin Luther, the reformer, the original Protestant, said, "Sin boldly." In fact, I know a preacher who put that on his marquee one time. Sin boldly. Guess what? He got a lot of calls. How dare you say sin boldly? In fact, one person said, you left the G out. Sing boldly. But what Luther said was, sin boldly, but trust God more boldly still. You're in that in-between time. Live it to the max. Don't let the fear of everybody and what everybody's saying and what God might do get in the way of doing what is right. And you know what is right. There's yet one more way of looking at this whole story. There are 8 talents. That is 7 plus 1. So the 7 talents, that's an important number. That's the 7 days of the week. That is the 7th day is when God is with us. The 1 is one too many. So it's not about 3 guys, 2 did pretty well and 1 was thrown out. It's about you. It's about the 3 parts of you. Personally, put them all together. There are things you can do that are particularly good, and you do them, and you enjoy them, and they make your life worthwhile. I hope you're doing it for a living, because there's nothing better than doing what you do well and having somebody else pay you for it. That's the first bag of talents. The second bag are the things you do pretty well, but not so well that you're going to go out and make a big deal about it. You just know you do it fairly well. It's sort of like my playing the piano. I like it. I enjoy it. I've got some talent, but I'm not going on a worldwide concert this week. Okay? Not going to happen. And then there's that one last little coin. And this last little coin is the thing you are deeply and personally ashamed of about yourself. A character trait, a habit, an addiction, a proclivity. It's feeling all alone, a stranger and an alien in your hometown. And you desperately want to keep it buried and hidden from everybody else. You don't have to fess up. It's just a fact of being trapped. And we do feel alone. And we have weird thoughts and weird things. But here's the good news. When the time comes, whether it's the end of the world or just the end of this life, those things will be given to the one that has the most. And they will be new and powerful. And the evil self, that part of you that's so ashamed, is thrown out into the darkness. And you are free from it. You are free from it for the rest of forever. In Harry Potter, last movie, Harry is killed by Lord Voldemort. It's a shocking moment. They have their big fight, and then, bam! Harry is dead, and here's what happens next.
You can't help. Harry, you wonderful boy. You brave, brave man. Let us walk.
Professor, what is that?
A part of Voldemort sent here to die.
I expect you now realize that you and Voldemort have been connected by something other than fate since that night in Godric's Hollow all those years ago.
So it's true then, sir. A part of him lives within me, doesn't it?
Did. It was just destroyed many moments ago by none other than Voldemort himself. You were the Horcrux he never meant to make, Harry.
Evil part of Harry Potter, that connection to the evil one, that shriveled little baby, is left behind. And the same is true with what God offers you. In the salvation of Jesus Christ, it's not just you getting to heaven. It's that all that stuff that holds you down and makes you miserable and is evil in your life will drop away. Is dropping away. Has dropped away. And that's not you anymore. And Christ replaces it in your heart with the Holy Spirit. That's our hope. And that's our good news.